in this country, and so they seem to be at pains to say, we're not racist. Look, we've got Jewish people, we've got Hindu people, we've got Sikh people. It's just the Islamic extremists that we're against, and everybody's against extremism, so we're actually reflecting a broad opinion. Is that the kind of tactic they've actually used before? Is this a new phenomenon, in your opinion?
It's nothing but the same old story. It really is a very, very old tactic in which you...
So the case with other minorities were used, recruited against other ones. Can you give some examples?
Well, for example, there was in the 70s, I remember this so well growing up, there was, whenever you saw the word black in the newspaper, next to it was the word mugger. Now, I don't know whether mugging's gone up or down over the years, but you hardly see this anymore. That you create a general atmosphere in which you say, okay, the problem is large black men, and therefore then it fits various racial stereotypes and so on.
Well, actually, at that time, the Asian stereotype was one of hard-working,
Absolutely.
loyal,
Absolutely.
and having a family stable system. So perhaps that was the divide and rule, in that the black community were the ones who were the scapegoats, and the Asian community were used as an example of, here's the good ethnic minorities. And do you feel like it's similar now that Hindu and Sikh Asians are saying, well, this is how to be a good Asian, as the Pakistani Muslims who are the problem? Would you say that you would see that, or is that just Muslims being oversensitive?
Definitely, that's happening. So you saw with the BNP, there was an individual called Rajinder Singh who went out there and said, oh, I support the British National Party. And now you have Gurmeet Singh who's chairing the English Defence League. So they're trying to show that they're patriotic, nationalistic, and therefore they're loyal to the land. And by the way, we have a small community here of Muslims who don't respect the rules of the land. Of course they do. It's pure madness if you say that all Muslims don't respect the laws of the land. And it's that same divide and rule strategy which is being implemented. This time, unfortunately, it's the Muslim community, and they're trying to play on old history between our communities to further their objectives.
Now, when you say old history, the reality is that there are tensions going back to the partition of India, where there were massacres on all sides of Hindu, Sikhs and Muslims, but it seems that some of that history is being dredged up. Do you see that actually happening in the streets of Britain today?
Well, I think they're even going further than that. I mean, the partition took place about 64 years ago, but what I've read from the on the websites, in the other sort of forums and etc., they're talking about 300, 400 years ago. In fact, Gurmeet Singh is quoted when he was interviewed on the BBC program, saying that Sikhs have stopped sort of Islam for the last 300, 400 years, which is complete lies, because Sikhs actually never, ever fought against Islam. In fact, none of the Sikh gurus ever opposed Islam. In fact, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the very first guru, his best friend was a Muslim. And also in Sikh scriptures, there are some verses from Muslim saints. And also, all those Sikh gurus never ever said anything against Islam. Only thing they fought were against the Mughal emperors. Some of them were very intolerant, which we know. They're also very tolerant Mughal emperors as well. Akbar, he was very tolerant. In fact, the foundation stone of the most sacred shrine of the Sikhs in Amritsar, but the foundation stone of that was laid by a Muslim priest, a Muslim saint. And the land of that city, Amritsar, the holy city of Sikhs, was granted by Akbar, a Muslim, a Mughal emperor. Well, of course, there was Aurangzeb who was called intolerant, but the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he has said quite clearly, he was not fighting against Islam. In fact, in his own army, there were quite a few Muslim generals who supported him also at a most critical time in his life, when he would have probably died. It was a Muslim who supported him. Also, after Aurangzeb died, his son, Bahadur Shah, made peace with Guruji, and in fact, Bahadur Shah gave Guruji the title of Pir-e-Hind, which means the Saint of India. So Sikhs were never ever fighting against Islam.
So there's a real history of cooperation, mutuality. And do you think that's actually news to a lot of Sikhs and Muslims themselves?
I think it is, and I think the reason for that is that we've forgotten where we come from and what it's all about, the bigger picture. It's very easy to get swept away with the politics of the day, and very hard to stick to the principles of religion and philosophy. So if we are going to call ourselves Sikhs, if we are going to call ourselves for Muslims, then we must follow the principles which our religions have taught, and not get carried away with the politics of the day. So throughout history, it's always been the politics of the day that people have been swept away with. I mean, during the partition of India, there's an area called Malayer Kotla, and that was unaffected. There was a huge Muslim population there, surrounded by Sikh population and Hindu population, no violence whatsoever. The reason why was because they had pluralistic ideas of brotherhood, and there was friendship. When our communities emigrated to this country here, we were in the same boat, we faced the same problems, the same burdens of starting up a new country. And we came together once again then as well. So Balwinder is a prime example of this. He set up the Indian Youth Association, and it consisted of everyone, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, everyone, you name it.
So do you think it's time for that greater unity? Because some people might say, well, what are you getting out of this? You're going up and down the country, you're speaking to Sikh communities, and you're saying to them, look, we need to stand shoulder to shoulder with our Muslim brothers and sisters. Do you sometimes get criticised for doing that?
I have not been criticised yet, and I hope it stays that way. It really hurts me to see that our youth have ended up in this situation. But what we must remember is, I'm in my early 20s, so for the past 10 years, the media has given me one particular image of Muslims, and it's been a negative one.
So how did you come to a different conclusion then? That's quite interesting.
What we need to remember is that when we're looking at young people, we're looking at young, impressionable minds. And when you teach young people that they should be intolerant of other religions, have no respect for them, then that is a preliminary step towards hatred and violence. And that's exactly what's happening. They've been taught through the media, Muslims are like this, Sikhs are like that.
So we're actually seeing pictures right now of Sikhs coming out in the open. We're here discussing, you're going to the gurdwaras, you're going to the universities, but also Sikhs have come out on the street in a very visible way to show their condemnation of the EDL and their support for Muslims. Do you think in terms of solidarity work, this is quite important? Because one of them, you're called Unite Against Fascism. Is this something that you cannot underestimate the value of?
It's absolutely powerful because as you said earlier, they've been quite clever in saying, okay, you know, it's just Muslims, why, and so on. We understand the demonization. And so it then becomes very important that you also present and show, actually, there is this other world. The real world, I think, is the real world in which people live together and communicate with each other and work with each other and so on. And so for our demonstrations, our counter demonstrations, especially against the EDL, I think what you see in them is an extraordinary mix of white, black, Asian, Christian, and so on, everyone. And this then shows that they're actually, what they say is a lie. Yeah. Because what they say is that people are, you know, that we can never live together. The only way, if we're ever together, we will kill each other and so on. And so you're always pushing this, I think, the real society and putting that on the streets.
And obviously it makes it easier for them to say, we're not racist. Look, we've got Asian and black people who think like us.
And why do they say that? Because, you know, since the 1970s, we've broken, I think, in the 1970s when the National Front, when it smashed the National Front, but politically and so on, is that it is unacceptable to be racist in the way that it was in the 1970s. So they say, oh, no, I'm not a racist. You know, my best friend is, and so on and so on. And just one of the other things, I think, I suspect your viewers know this, that when you look at the EDL and say how many Sikhs in the EDL, I think there's one. Am I correct? Yeah. You know. I mean, you know. So there's more people. There's hardly any of them in. So they draw in when they say, and they a Muslim man as well from Glasgow. They say, oh look, see, we're not intolerant. See, we have a Muslim man here, and so on. And you say, okay, what's going? You know, this is a lie. You're pushing a lie. But when they start pushing them, they say, well, are you racist? They go, yes. Actually, you begin to see that it's. And I've heard them in their chants. I think it was in Dudley or in Bolton, one of their mobilisations, where one section of the crowd chanted, and you have to excuse my language, we hate Pakis and we hate Pakis and so on.
Well, Gurmit Singh himself, he did a tirade against Muslims, then he said
another
Pakis.
section of the crowd replied, I'd rather be a Paki than a Yid. Now what's going on here? Actually, what's going on here is you're bringing the fascists, you're bringing all these people together. What is their purpose? Their purpose in this case is to spread terror. Here's your first, you know, an easy target in that sense. We'll go for them, but it's much, much wider. It doesn't stop there. And I think I think most Sikh people will understand when you come against a racist, they don't distinguish.
Well, I'm sure, Verinda, many of our viewers will be hearing some of this for the first time, and actually it will give a real sense of hope. And please do feel that your work is being appreciated. Do you have much contact with Muslim organisations directly yourself?
So since we've started this initiative, we've received a number of organisations approaching us and supporting us in different ways. We're trying to get involved in interfaith work and dialogue. I mean, at the end of the day, the only way to overcome this is through communication, through dialogue. And it does work. It has been working. It's a case of reviving that and not making sure that we don't go back on the work that we've done. We've worked so hard to open up dialogue and to get everything going.
So, Balwinder, does it give you hope? I mean, you've been an anti-racist campaigner for decades, and now you've got young people like Verinda coming forward.
Verinda Singh is the hard-working, really brave Sikh, young Sikh, I've met. But I think Sikhs are not being fooled by all this propaganda and the ideal.
So is that the reassuring message to the Muslims that actually Sikhs are not falling for this?
Not at all.
Sometimes you could be sitting at home thinking, well, are people believing the rubbish that they see?
I don't know if the camera can pick up all these signatures. We have some of the most important Sikh and Hindu organizations in this country who signed, including the largest Sikh temple outside India, based in Southall, also in Birmingham. We were yesterday, me and Verinda, in Birmingham. Sikh temples signed our statement immediately, and 3 others promised they would have signed, but unfortunately the leaders who had authority signed, they were not there. In East London, the biggest Gurdwara in Barking, they are supporting us. In fact, in Southall, every single Sikh temple, Hindu temple, they signed a statement, plus a number of MPs.
So it's fantastic. So the support you're receiving is very wide, lots of organisations, lots of influential people. Well, on that positive note, we have to end the programme today, but it's so heartening that to actually have a good news story on the Islam Channel's Politics and Media show. Do join us next week.